G'day and welcome. My name is Gavin Finley, and this is part 5 in a series of videos on Daniel's prophecy of the 70 weeks. In this video, we'll be looking at the 3 edicts put forward as candidates to initiate the 70 weeks prophecy, and we'll be particularly looking at the timelines to see where those timelines end. There are a number of articles on this subject over at the website, endtimepilgrim.org. Understanding mysteries does not come from the intellect, it comes from devotion to God. Our scripture is from Daniel 9:25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem, unto Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. So a certain royal edict initiates a timeline of 7 sevens plus 62 sevens, or 69 sevens of biblical years. The 69 sevens of biblical years are 483 360-day years. As we discussed in the earlier video on biblical time, God dispenses holy time to us from his throne based upon the mathematically perfect circle of 360 degrees. And this is the prophetic time we see in Holy Scripture. And so prophetic time is given to us in terms of 360-day years. This is from our second Rosetta Stone for biblical time, and it comes to us out of Revelation chapter 12. 1260 days equals 3.5 years. We do the math and we come to 360 days, which is the number of degrees in a circle. So the 483 years are biblical years of 360 days. We do the math and we come out to 173,880 days. And this is a number arrived at by noted evangelical scholar and Scotland Yard inspector Sir Robert Anderson, and he published his breakthrough work on the 70 weeks prophecy during the late 19th century. We'll convert the 173,880 days back into cosmic time by dividing by 365.2422, being the number of days in a solar or calendar year. And we get 476.0677 solar years, which turns out to be 476 years and 25 days. Our timeline must end up on a day that sees Messiah the Prince. And in all of the 3+ years of the ministry of Jesus, there was only one day in which he presented himself to his holy city and to his holy people in any sort of a political or royal manner as Messiah the Prince, and this was on Palm Sunday.
And Jesus resolutely took the road for Jerusalem.
Rabbi, command your disciples to be quiet.
I tell you, if they were to be quiet, the stones themselves would begin shouting.
So which royal decree will be the starting gun to initiate the 476 years, or the 69 weeks? Was it the Edict of Cyrus in 538 BC? Is it the Edict of Ezra in 458 BC? Or is it the decree of Artaxerxes Longimanus given to Nehemiah in 445 BC? The wording and the merits of these 3 decrees we shall leave for a future session. In this video, we're not going to arrive at our 2-day accuracy for the 69 weeks. Here we'll be content just to lay out the 3 476-year timelines, beginning with those 3 edicts, and see where these timelines end up, just in terms of the season and the year. And we'll start with the Edict of Cyrus. Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon in 538 BC. This was the night of Belshazzar's feast and the writing on the wall. The Edicts of Cyrus in 538 BC freed the captives of Judah, allowing them to return home to Jerusalem. The Persian king gave his blessing and provided funds to rebuild the temple. As we can see, the timeline going out from Cyrus ends far too early. It ends up in 62 BC in a historical no man's land with no sign of Messiah the Prince to be found. The timeline is 93 years short of the Passion Year. So we can conclude that this is the wrong edict. Now we'll look at the next candidate, the Ezra decree, which came in the 7th year of Artaxerxes Longimanus. It was given to Ezra the scribe, and the date here is 458 BC. Laying out the 476-year timeline from 458 BC, we come to 19 AD. Did anything happen in 19 AD that might possibly answer to Messiah the Prince? And the answer is no. And we are 13 years short of the Passion Year. So the Ezra decree of 458 BC falls short. It is the wrong edict. But what if we insist on wrongly using 483 solar years of 365.24 days to measure out the 69 weeks of years instead of 360-day biblical years? We end up with a terminus in 26 AD. We are still 6 years short of 32 AD and the true appearance of Messiah the Prince. It's an intriguing thing, but there are many people rising up nowadays who insist that the 69 weeks terminated and was fulfilled by the baptism of Jesus. Does this satisfy the prophecy? No, it does not. And why? because the text in Daniel 9:25 specifically calls for a decidedly political, even a royal appearance of Jesus as Messiah the Prince. The baptism of Jesus was none of that. It was a priestly event. But we shall look at their chronology anyway. Here is the Ezra timeline using 483 solar years instead of 483 biblical years, or 360 days. The timeline ends in 26 AD. It clearly falls short of the mark by some years. But their inability to deliver up an accurate timeline doesn't seem to bother them. They have an agenda, so they push this Ezra chronology quite strongly, even though it does not fit into anything resembling Messiah the Prince. So we need to be warned here. The people advancing this false chronology include preterists, historicists, and many caught up in dominion theology and replacement theology. Some have a crusading agenda, but do they have a timeline that terminates neatly and accurately on the 15th year of Tiberius? Because Luke reports that the ministry of John the Baptist, and therefore the baptism of Jesus, came during that year. Luke reports that when all the people were baptized, it came to pass that Jesus also was baptized. And when was the 15th year of Tiberius? Let's find out. The reign of Tiberius Caesar began on August the 19th of 14 AD. Therefore, the 15th year of Tiberius would have begun 14 years later, on August the 19th of 28 AD. The baptism of Jesus would have come soon after that in the fall of 28 AD, coinciding with the auspicious season of the Hebrew New Year. Sir Isaac Newton favored the Ezra decree to initiate the 70 weeks prophecy. He laid out a timeline of 483 solar years, aiming for a terminus of the 69 weeks with the baptism of Jesus. It seems that many are following his lead as we approach the latter days. But as we can see, there is a problem with this timeline. The edict began with Ezra in the 7th year of Artaxerxes in 458 BC. Even incorrectly using 365.24-day calendar years and reckoning Messiah the Prince to be the baptism of Jesus, the timeline terminates in 26 AD, but nothing of any messianic importance was going on in 26 AD. As we have seen, the true year of the baptism of Jesus was 28 AD and not 26 AD. So this Ezra timeline, using the profane calendar years of a fallen cosmos, still falls short of its own mark by a full 2 years. So again, the Ezra decree of 458 BC cannot be made to fit. It is the wrong edict. Now let's check out the timeline initiated by the edict given to Nehemiah. As we read in Nehemiah chapter 2, it was in the month of Nisan, the 20th year of Artaxerxes Longimanus, that Nehemiah went to the king. This was in the springtime of 445 BC, and we're going to prove that in the subsequent video. When we lay out the 476-year timeline from the springtime of the Nehemiah edict year of 445 BC, we find that it does indeed connect into the springtime of the Passion year of 32 AD. So is this the correct edict? We haven't proven it yet, but from what we've seen so far, the Nehemiah timeline is beginning to look quite promising. In the next video, we'll be refining this chronology by using the lunar cycles as a second measuring line on the 69 weeks. And using the moon phase data, we shall confirm that the 69 weeks began on the second day of the Nisan moon of Nehemiah chapter 2 and terminated on the 10th day of the Nisan moon, right on Palm Sunday. The timeline that we see here will be presented later on in this study. The NASA lunar data will tell us when the new moons came through for the Nisan of Nehemiah in 445 BC and for the Nisan of the Passion year in 32 AD. Once again, the 70 weeks are 10 jubilees. They are years that God counts in his reckoning of holy history and holy time. It seems that God is only counting jubilees inside the 70 weeks. He's not counting them right now. And when the 70th week opens up in some future year, there will be 1 week or 7 biblical years left before the arrival of Messiah. Then the trumpets of Jubilee will sound to begin that epic future Jubilee that will usher in the millennium of Messiah. So what is the point of this study of Daniel's prophecy of the 70 weeks? Well, here's some good information. The terminus of the 69 weeks brought us the first coming of Messiah. There is a gap of nearly 2,000 years. Then there will be a future 70th week, the final 7 years of this present evil age. This final 7-year period has been determined, cut out of time, especially set aside for God's determined dealings with all of his covenant people from both houses of Israel. The 7 years will end with the second coming of Messiah. And so ends the 10 Jubilee cycles of the 70 weeks. The second coming of Messiah will be followed appropriately by the Jubilee year. I hope you're finding this study on Daniel's prophecy of the 70 weeks helpful. Once again, there are a number of articles available at the website endtimepilgrim.org.